Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am, as always, Sam, and I am an artist, illustrator and an aspiring knitting designer coming to you from the Republic of Ireland. And if you're new to my channel, you can find me all around the internet, Instagram, or rather really Facebook, looking for Irish farm art. And this is my sort of bi-weekly podcast vlog in which I try to show with you all my endeavors into knitting, fiber arts, and sometimes a little bit of arty and craft things. If you are an old-time viewer, thank you so much once again for coming back today. This really means a lot. So we have plenty of stuff going on. First of all, globally, all around the world, today is St. Martin's Day. It's the 11th of November. And we in Venice, I am originally from Venice in northern Italy, we do celebrate a lot. We celebrate with bakes, with presents, and if you stick to the end of this channel, I will show you some of the traditional bakes. I try to recreate them here in Ireland, and I will tell you a little bit about our traditions around St. Martin's Day. So, in terms of knitting, what do we have here? It's been a productive couple of weeks. Not as productive as I wished, but there are stuff coming up, so yeah, stay tuned for that. The first thing that is quite apparent is what I am wearing. And this was drying last week, so I think I show it to you on the camera, but it was still damp, it was still blocking. This is my North Sea sweater. It's a pattern by Sandnes Garn, which you can find in their 2015 men knitwear booklet. I put a link below as well of the pattern. So I really love the 2015 series of patterns that Sandnes Garn published. They are, I found, really modern, really beautiful, and quite simple to knit up as well. And then you do know my love for Sandnes Garn. Every single one of their patterns, without modification or with very minor modification, always fit very well, at least to me. This is the North Sea sweater, and it's a bottom-up raglan sweater, very, very simple. And there is this beautiful kind of lice-ish color work going on in the full length of the garments, so sleeves, body, yoke, and everywhere. And of course, the raglan decrease is a much wider decrease than I usually do. I think, if I'm right, there are a few stitches between the decreases, so that you can actually tell the big main color band. I choose to knit this up in my Holst Garn super soft wool, which is a Danish wool. You're probably sick to your teeth to listen to me talking and bragging about how beautiful Holst Garn super soft is, but it's definitely my favorite yarn, or one of my favorite yarns. Anyway, it's taking basically no yarn at all. The entire jumper weighs more or less 150 grams. The super soft wool is very sheer, especially when you knit it up. It's a lace weight, fingering lace weight yarn. It's 2-ply, and it knits up, for me at least, on a gauge of 26/28 stitches per 10 centimeters, usually using a 2.5 or 3 millimeter needle, which is bang on for this sweater here. For Sandnes pattern, I have noticed that I do tend to go down a size, so taking my measurements, and I don't have a tape with me, but my bust is about 110 centimeter, my chest, 110 centimeter in circumference. So if you go on your Sandnes pattern, I usually go down for the smaller one. I don't think is a pattern choice. I think it's just because I do like to wear my sweaters a little bit more fitted without ease or with some negative ease. That's how works better for me. And this jumper has no difference from the previous jumpers that I need from Sunless. They just fit very well. The color is I don't quite remember, but I'm gonna put everything over here, or you can of course find the notes in my Ravelry page. But I choose the colors that the pattern was kind of written in a very rusty orange color, very autumnal, and it tends to be a mix of oranges and yellows and browns, so it gets this very dark, very deep orange color that I really love. It's like that orange, that foresty orange color, very autumnal. If you have the chance to check out Sun's website, you will definitely find this. Their pictures are amazing and they actually reflect very well the color of the yarns. I'm not sponsored by Sun's. And the contrasting color is a charcoal color, just a very black, speckly, kind of natural dark black color. The wool is 100% super soft wool. Super soft meaning not that it is actually extraordinarily soft, but meaning that when you wash it, after a few wears, the wool tends to soften and to become more velvety and quite nice to wear as well. You need to be careful because it's a very rustic wool, meaning that the yarn tend to stick together. So if you're doing color work, that may be quite difficult to work. But the flip side is that once you power on and you knit up everything, you will get a beautiful work after washing. I don't know if you can see from the camera here, but the stitch definition is literally amazing, and the fabric that looked really sheer and transparent before washing actually turned out to be extraordinarily lofty and woolly and really warm, but keeping the lightness of the wool. I haven't found anything like this before. I have tried other super soft wools, meaning the Woolly Knits wool and JC Rennie as well. JC Rennie, we are there with the characteristic, but Woolly Knits tend to be a little bit more lofty from the beginning. So the problem that I had with Woolly Knits, if it is even a problem, like it's an amazing wool, but is that I knit up my jumper with the idea that it behaves like hosed, so while washing it will plump up, so my gauge tend to be a little bit tighter, or I tend to pay a little bit more attention to the strands, for example, the behind. But then washing Woolly Knits, it doesn't plump up as much as hosed garn. There's less spinning oil in the wool, there's less transformation if you wish, and so the garment results a little bit heavier. It's not really extremely noticeable or even bothering, but it's something to be aware of, or at least that I was aware of. I'm really sorry if I mess my hair. I haven't got an haircut in a month and it's due this Friday, so don't worry about that. And I'm just out of the shower, so it's completely wet. Annie Bob, is there anything else to say about this sweater? Lasting modifications. I didn't make any this time. Am I happy? Kind of. So the first thing that I noticed while after the first wash is that the color has grown massively. So to achieve a better result, I went from the inside and I added some of that transparent how do you call it, like floss, elastic floss or something like that, that made the color to stay a little bit better together. The problem there is that you can see sometimes flaring up a bit the color when where I missed a stitch with the elastic, or where the fibers don't cooperate well. That is nothing, you can barely see anything. The second modification that I haven't made is adding short rows at the back of the yoke. I usually add my short rows at the back of the yoke, and then if there are more at the top, I will modify that and change the numbers to get a decent number of short rows. And I took this thing of adding short rows from my previous knitted jumper, the Anchor sweater, that doesn't include short rows, but watching other podcasters, I have found that adding short rows at the back before you knit the body, that was actually fitting so much better the yoke. From that moment I always had the short rows, and you will see with the next finish work as well the way that I add the short rows there. I didn't for this one, thinking that the short rows that were added at the collar piece, or the creases on the collar piece, were enough to justify not having short rows at the back of the yoke. That turned out to be true, but not that much. As you can see under my underarms here, there's a little bit of gathering. The raglan decreases as per pattern starts right from the bind off for the underarm, which makes it bunch up quite a bit now. Now, is this a problem? I don't know. I found that this jumper here needs to be washed once again. Wearing it with a shirt, and this is the first time that I wear this with a shirt, the floats of yarn on the behind, on the inside, catch the buttons, especially here on the cuffs and the button band here, which annoys me a lot. I'm always so afraid to snitch one of the floats with a button. It's just unbelievably frightening. So the good thing is that this super soft wool will bunch together as you wash it. So the floats will stick together and then will create a sort of unified fabric with washing. So I will give it tonight another very sturdy wash and trying to block out this gathering here, and hopefully we will have a finished work. But so far I'm super happy with this jumper, and now that I'm wearing it is very warm, which is great considering what's going on in the world and the amount of money that we're gonna spend this winter to warm up our houses. Anyway, let's get into the second finish work. But this is not really the second, but will be the first, as I finished this on the previous podcast, but you get the idea. So here it is. This is my Riddari Sweater. It's a beautiful pattern by Istex, by Lopi. Istex is the brand that produce a Lopi yarn like Lopi and so on and so forth. This is massive, very cozy and extraordinarily beautiful in the color work. I really loved knitting on this. It flew off the needle quite fast, and it's just amazing. It actually wears so beautifully, and I am currently looking to get more yarn to knit another piece, another one of these, because it's just absolutely stunning. I'm actually looking to get more pattern from Istex because, yeah, amazing. So first of all, let's talk about the pattern. The pattern is extraordinarily simple. It's about a 20-line pattern. Very easy to follow, very simple, It's translated in English very well. Istex is from Iceland, which I suppose their pattern are written in Icelandic and translated in English. This is not true for every patterns that I found. I found some patterns translated from other languages into English that are a mess. So first point for Istex is the translation. And then it's extraordinarily brief, so it tells you exactly what to do in a very few words, which is amazing. It's not absolutely size inclusive, but considering that these are Icelandic massive sweaters, you don't really need that array of sizes. It's not like this one that tend to be more fitted and more shaping your body. This is just a big fat jumper to put on to go outside on a walk or whatever. So those are the takeout from the pattern itself. On the construction of the jumper, this is being knitted bottom up, from the bottom up, and we do have a circular yoke. The AI generally do not prefer. I think I knitted only a couple of circular yokes, considering as well the anchor sweater, which is circular, of course. The idea is that at some stages you decrease to create a sort of a funnel, and then you have your neckband. Easy peasy, works all the time. This is not quite true, as I found that sometimes it's difficult to wear when you raise your arms. The entire jumper bunch up and you end up with a complete mess. I think this is being solved in the pattern because the sweaters, the jumpers are meant to be oversized and big and woolly. So even if you lift your arm or do some movement, the jumper is gonna stay in place. But I, first of all, didn't follow gauge and didn't follow yarn suggestion. So it's a 4-pay pattern, so I can't really share much of the pattern, but the pattern is meant to be knitted into let Lopi, if I'm right, that big squishy Icelandic yarn. So the gauge is very small. In my case, I wanted to use that drops lima that I had in my stash. You remember I was talking about this before. For some sort of reason, I ended up having a lot of drops in my stash, and one of the bigger quantities was the drops lima, which is a combination of wool and alpaca into a lovely DK yarn of about 100 meters by 50 grams or something like that. Once again, all the informations are in my Ravelry page if you are curious about needle size and all of that. So I had this big massive lump of yarn, and yeah, I wanted to use that for this jumper. And it turned out to be amazing. It turned out that I had to go up at least 4 sizes in order to get the right fitting for my body. 4 sizes up in stitch count and decreases and increases and all of that. But I followed the second size for measurements. So how much you need your body, how much you need your sleeve, and so on and so forth. It was a little bit of a game and put it together like a puzzle thing, but it worked out quite well. Modifications that I made, and I made quite a few here, which I'm very happy about because it tells me 2 things. First, that I became sort of more aware as a knitter and more capable of modifying my stuff. And then the second one is that I can kind of pinpoint what to modify in a garment that make me look better at the end of the day. This is what we want, right? So The first modification that I made is on all the ribbings, so talking about cuffs, talking about the waistband and the collar. There is a classic Icelandic construction when you have a couple of rows in garter stitch, if I'm correct, and then you start with a smaller ribbing and then again garter stitch, which creates a sort of ravel fabric, tubular thing on the collar and everywhere else. I didn't want that in my sweater. Why I didn't want that? For a simple reason. I had a jumper like that when I was very young, and when I was very young I was very big. So that jumper, I remember a day in which I was looking at myself in the mirror wearing that jumper. It was very colorful, and I remember saying to myself, oh my god, you look awful. And that stick to me my entire life. I despised that jumper, and I despised that color and everything else that was going on there. Anyway, doing the little tubular thing, raveling thing, made me instantly think of that specific jumper and that horrible time of my life, so that wasn't happening. And when I sat down with the pattern, I decided to do just a regular collar and regular cuff and waistband, which worked perfectly. The second modification, and is actually the last modification if I'm right, is the short rows. Of course I had to add short rows because everybody needs a short row. I added a huge amount of short rows here just because I was afraid that this jumper would become like the previous circular yoke jumpers that I have done. Lovely to see, but don't really wear well. So throw them in a closet, and then eventually, after a couple of years, they go to charity. So I added about 13 short rows on the back of my yoke down here. It's impossible to show. I don't know how other podcasters do down here. And I decided to use the German short rows technique type of thing, which works like a spell every single time. So here we go. It's absolutely stunning. I don't know if you can tell the color from the camera, but we have a rusty orange, a light gray, a blue, like marine blue, like navy blue, and a gray. It's not really a combination of color that I would choose if I come back, but it is what I had in stash, and I seriously didn't want to buy more drops Lima for this jumper, so I decided to use that. If it worked, fine, otherwise good luck. End up working well, so here we go, my Riddari Sweater by Istex. Have you tried any other of their patterns? Are they worth it, or is basically the same recipe with a different color work? I have seen a few more that I do like, and I'm thinking of getting them, but they are quite expensive, so what do you think? Would you recommend them? Let me know. And yeah, that was the end of the finish works for this week, and we can just slide into works in progress. Talking about works in progress, I have a bundle here. I don't know if you can see, it's a big mess and yarn everywhere, sticking to everything. I'm so annoyed, but I will take care of this later on. So first of all, we have something that we have seen last week as well, and is bundled up completely and is probably wanting to unravel and create a big mess and throwing me crazy, but if I can show you, here we go. This is my Flux Light sweater by Think and Knit, and I decided to do the first option, the, I don't know, 10th size. Basically is the second size in bold style on the pattern. I don't remember which measurement it is, but was more or less what made me think that could suit me. I am at the stage of just divided for the sleeves and start knitting the body. So, the story behind this, I was talking about this in my previous podcast as well. I was at home in Italy a month ago, I say, and I didn't have any more knitting project, any more yarns for exactly this sweater here, and I needed to do something, otherwise I of course would go crazy. So the only thing that I could find, and sorry for the needles blimping, is this yarn here. This was in my mom's stash and was the only yarn that I could borderline recognize. This looks very suspiciously similar to Host Garn Super Soft. So I stole this yarn and I had my trusty 3mm needles and I started this pattern because it was the only free pattern that I could get in my library, and I always wanted to try this sweater because literally everybody and their dogs have knitted it. So I have my concerns on the soundness of this work. First off, I feel like the yoke is quite short. I am not familiar with knitting patterns from the top and down, sweaters from the top down. So I don't know how a yoke should look like to be done. But it looks very short and it looks really wide as well. So I don't know if it's just me or if it will get better knitting through or what. We'll see. It's a work in progress, and I knitted quite a bit this week because I really wanted to get at least the first piece of the body done, and then it will be a matter of stocking it for the entire body until we finish it. So I am going to put this on the side because this yarn here is very, very thin, and the entire project weigh nothing and doesn't take much space. So this will be my holiday vacation travel project for Christmas and for the New Year time. When I'm away, I can just put this in a project bag and carry over, and there's plenty of knitting to do on this, plenty of stocking it, so mindless knitting, don't care, bring it on. If it works well, otherwise I will definitely find someone to give this to. If it's a little oversized, I might even think of felting it just that tiny little bit to bring it down to size, because the yarn, once again, I have no idea if this is Ulst or Super Soft or some sort. It sounds like wool, behaves like wool, it's very sheer, so we need to see after the first washing, and then yeah, we can tell from there. The beautiful thing is that the color is just stunning. It's this big deep blue, royal blue with purples and pinks, and it's just amazing. So looking forward for this, but this will go in the sleeping room for a while, and it will be the best project to carry around. In terms of modification, I haven't done any. So far it's been just a matter of following the pattern, and this is what we get. But yeah, I don't know if I'm happy about this, I'm annoyed, or I just don't care. We'll see when it's a later stage how we get on. The second work in progress should have been actually mentioned as the first work in progress is a pair of mittens. It's actually one half mitten or three-quarter mitten. This is a free pattern by the designer Karen Karn, and I'm reading there because I couldn't remember anything today. My mind is all over the place. And they are called the Long Haven mittens. So, why am I making mittens? I had this ball and a tiny little bit more left from the Riddari sweater. This is Drops Lima. It's, if I'm right, 35 alpaca and 75 wool, but I will put somewhere here on the screen the specification. So I know that I'm using a lot of gloves and mittens during the winter, and yeah, I wanted a pair of mittens. I couldn't be bothered to modify my own pattern to create mittens, and I just wanted something to follow, easy and without thinking much. So I found this pattern. It's a free pattern, and so far it's working up quite well. They are a bit oversized. Let me show you. I am banging on with the gauge and everything else. So I don't know what mistake I made, or if I made a size too large, but I think the size is only one and only the cuff changes. No idea. I do enjoy the way they knit up. The gusset is basically knitted on both sides, so you don't have left or right. They are exactly the same. Very, very easy to just pick up and put on. I am at the point of finishing the toe side, the creases, and then pick up for the thumb as well. We'll see how it works. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna try to felt it because it's very wide, and you know, felted mittens are very good if it's very cold. But this is an alpaca yarn or alpaca mix, so I have no idea if it will felt as well as a wool mix. If you have any experience or any recommendation, please let me know. It's just a tiny little bit. I would like to get rid of a centimeter top. So here we go. These are the Long Haven mittens. I absolutely love them. You know, they call for a DK yarn. I'm using DK. They call for a 26 stitches gauge. I'm doing that. I don't know what's wrong with them. Probably nothing's wrong. It's just meant to be like that, but we will see. Anyway, this was my very second work in progress, and we do have a last one, which is a very big surprise for you. Here it is. Ta-da! This is my absolutely perfect Aran jumper, with the beginning of one, of course. This Aran jumper is a free pattern, once again, on Ravelry. It's called the Handsome Chris by, and I'm still reading, by Karin Scheffer. And it's basically a reconstruction from the back of that beautiful jumper that got Aran Sweaters really famous currently. It's called Knives Out or something like that. And it's super, super beautiful. I think the stitch definition is amazing, and the pattern is extraordinarily easy to read as well. If you remember a few months ago, probably a year ago, I tried to knit an Aran jumper with a pattern from Brooklyn Tweed. That didn't work out. The pattern was way too difficult to follow. I wasn't probably as experienced as a knitter or a knitting cables as I should have, and I threw everything away. It was just a big nightmare. I didn't enjoy 1 second, and that really stopped me to making cable sweaters, Aran jumpers again, until I found this pattern. The pattern is sort of a collaboration between knitters. You can see in the pattern suggestions from other knitters. It's just a Word document, and I kind of think it's a work in progress as you go. There are so many beautiful projects in the pattern that I couldn't but try it. So it calls for a worsted weight yarn for a gauge of 20 stitches per 10 centimeters. The yarn that I'm using is this lovely little yarn here, which is a soft tweed by Drops, and it's my last batch of Drops. I do have a few other balls here and there of sock yarn from Drops, of DK yarns, some more alpaca yarns, but this is the last jumper quantity that I had in my stash, which is absolutely great. This dropped soft tweed is a tweedy yarn, super nice and soft. Is not itchy at all. This is a combination of wool, alpaca and viscose. 50, 25, 25. Amazing. It calls for a gauge of 21 stitches per 10 centimeter using a 3 millimeter needle, and it weighs 50 grams is 130 meters, so a lot of yarn for a DK weight, a lot of meterage for a DK weight yarn. This calls for a Aran chunky yarn, worsted weight yarn, sorry. I went of course up in gauge because I'm using a DK, and I went down in size, so I'm knitting the very first size, but as you can tell it's massive. This is the back panel. Of course the pattern is knitted in panels, back, front and sleeves, and I sew them together, which makes me quite dubious and afraid, but I have bought plenty of books on finishing garments. I am studying a lot as well for my tech editing course and all of that, so hopefully this will be fine. I didn't make any modifications so far. I just am going to knit through the repeat until it reaches the end, and then I will cast off. It's going on so beautifully. I got into understanding the cable quite well, and I am knitting all of the cables without a cable needle, which makes my work just flow through so nice and satisfying as well. I am sure that if I go back to that pattern that I was talking about from Brooklyn Tweed, it would be so much easier now to follow. But yeah, I can't recommend more. This pattern here is just absolutely amazing. And please check the projects, because people are making amazing Aran sweaters. So Aran jumpers are very typical here of Ireland, of the west part of Ireland. Of course, Aran are our beautiful islands, and it's traditionally knitted with Irish worsted weight, Aran weight wool, very chunky, very rough, very natural wool, and usually it's white or natural color. That would have worked better for the cables for sure. Having this soft tweed, a little bit of alpaca, makes the cable a bit more flat than a proper woolly yarn would have done. But so far I'm happy. I know that I wouldn't wear a rough yarn on my skin, and I wouldn't be myself. I couldn't really bear it. So I think this is a good choice, and probably with a bit of washing and care the cables will puff up and it will be fine. So here we go, the Ensom crease pullover, which is a work in progress. This won't be finished before Christmas, this won't be finished anytime soon, but you know, it's an Aran jumper, it's timeless, and even if I have this next year, fine, who cares? So, I don't have anything else on my needles, any other work in progress. Um, yeah, it's been a matter of scaling down a little bit my work. I am my knitting work, my actual work, 9 to 5, is wrapping up so badly. It's just crazy busy. But I am working now on the Advent calendar, and I am thinking of starting a knit along. So this knit along will be running through Advent, probably until the end of Advent. For Christmas I will have the prizes drawn. Now I'm thinking might be later than Christmas because, you know, you need to give people time. But I'm not looking for an FO, a finished work, a finished object, but perhaps a work in progress would do. And I was thinking to open to any of my patterns and maybe put up a couple for free as well. And what else? And as price, perhaps having some Irish yarn, some patterns, a book if I can manage to get one, something like that. If you have any recommendation or suggestions for me, let me know. This is the first knit along that I am hosting, and I don't quite know what are the best practices, what is the etiquette of a knit along. The only thing that I would like to include is to choose one of my patterns for a little bit of selfish advertisement, perhaps, and then as well to get especially some techniques, some Venetian knitting techniques and stuff like that, to getting them a little bit more widespread in the world. That would be lovely for me. Anyway, let's go into acquisition. I have a couple of books acquired. So this is Nordic Knits by the lovely guy. I can't pronounce his name, but you all know this guy here. This is the author is Birger Berge. I have no idea. I'm really sorry, but it's a lovely book full of color work, of Norwegian color work or Nordic inspired color work. I'm looking for a pattern without showing you the. I'm looking for a picture without showing you the patterns. Here we go. You probably can't tell much from these pictures, but we do have this type of color work. It's all full on color work, full on Norwegian, kind of traditional color work with a twist into modern styles and modern kind of way to wear it. And I can't wait to make one of these. I really love this jumper here, and perhaps trying to make a cardigan that would be lovely. This book here is published by Trafalgar Square, and I bought it in my local book shop for about 25 euros. The second book that I want to talk about, that I just got in the mail, is this one. I was looking for this book for the longest time. This is Wilderness Knits. So sorry for my pronunciation today, by Linka Newman. I think everybody knows this book so far. It's been extraordinarily popular. The pictures are just amazing. It's just full of lovely Icelandic inspired sweaters, like the one that I will just show you, the Riddari Sweater. Same style, big round yokes with lovely color work. I think everybody is a little bit getting crazy about Icelandic color work, and I'm seeing in the shops, I mentioned this before, like H&M or Zara, I don't remember, some other like fast fashion type of shop, having Icelandic style sweaters. I love it because it's like, oh, finally we are legitimizing knitting, and we're making that popular. I hate it from the other side because it took me what, a month to knit up a jumper, and you can buy the same jumper for 19.99 in H&M. You don't know, of course, if it's wool, if it's what is the ethic behind them, and yeah, all of that. It's not the same thing, but you know, the style is the same. So if I walk down the street, someone is gonna look at my jumper saying, "Oh, well, lovely, it's from H&M." It's not, but you know what I mean. Anyway, it's positive that we do have some more. The traditional knitting is getting showcased. I would love to know what our Icelandic friends think about that. But yeah, this is the next book that I bought is published by Pavilions, and I bought it on Book Depository for 16, 17 euro. It's absolutely beautiful. I couldn't find it for the longest time. It was always sold out, or the publisher wasn't selling any more copies, but finally I got it, and I'm super happy about that. Can't wait to knit something from that book. And I'm desperately looking for yarn now, because after I got rid of basically all my drops stash, I basically only have cones of super soft wools. So I would like in my stash some, I don't know, DK yarns that could work well for a jumper. Anyway, I'm blathering now, digressing, and it's getting really windy. Last couple of things. Coming up, I have been interviewed by the amazing channel, the amazing hostess of the Two OGs, which is, of course, a yarning and knitting podcast here on YouTube, coming all the way from Canada. And yeah, it's been a lovely interview, and I thank them so much for their support. And the interview will come up in December at some stage, but I will put the Two OGs links in the description below, so be sure to check them out, and to put yourself a little reminder that my interview will come up. We talked about my knitting traditions, my growing up as a knitter, and then chatting about yarns and anything and everything that you can imagine. It's a lovely interview. And then what else? Yeah, I'm working on my Advent calendar. I am trying to film some of the videos in advance, because you know, I'll be traveling over Christmas, so I want to get what you would call vlogmas every day up in YouTube, so something of that is going on. And then today we are celebrating St. Martin's Day. I can't bring out the cakes because they are still chilling in the fridge, but I'll make sure to put on some videos back at the end here about this very traditional Venetian cake. So, what is St. Martin's Day? St. Martin's Day is literally the day of St. Martin's, which is every 11th of November. And the story goes that St. Martin, the guy, was a Roman soldier, was wearing his beautiful red cloak one November day back, I don't know, 1,500 years ago, when the Romans were about. And November was very cold and very chilly, but it was just wearing his armor, his cloak, beautiful red velvet cloak, and just walking around, looking that everything was fine. Being a soldier, you know, that's what you do, their own soldiery thing, with a beautiful sword in his back, his pockets, and shiny boots, and all of the classic Roman soldier apparel. So he was walking, he was riding his horse by Venice, and on one street it was getting late, and it was very snowy as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. But on one street, when he was patrolling the street, he found On the side of the street, a very poor guy, almost undressed, with just a few pieces of clothing on, and it was very, very cold and starving. And so Marty was like, well, I don't really have nothing to give you money-wise. He dismounted his horse and he looked around if he could gather some straw or some, I don't know, a blanket or something to give to the poor, but he couldn't find anything. And the poor wasn't asking for anything. He was just there, being extraordinarily cold and frozen. So Martin took his sword from his side and cut enough his own beautiful red velvet mantle and cloak and gave it to the poor to get warm. Goes down to his soldier business, and in the night at home he got a dream while he was sleeping, and actually it was Jesus himself thanking him for the cloak. So he realized that that poor person was actually Jesus. And from then started the conversion of St. Martin, and it ended up becoming a big bishop in France somewhere, and then a saint. Apart from the religious meaning, it's a very big tradition in Venice, in my region of Italy, to celebrate St. Martin's Day. And we do, of course, bake the horse of St. Martin's. It's just a simple short bread biscuit type of base with a lot of royal icing and chocolate and candies on the top. It's delicious because it's very sugary. It's not a fine patisserie, you know what I mean? And there are jellies on the top. I don't know why there's jellies, but that's the traditions. And children used to, or do, bring food, collect food for the poor in their schools, in the local parish, and local charities as well. Everywhere they just collect a big packet of pastas, tins of food, and something that is not unperishable. Lately I've seen collecting medicines as well, and so on and so forth. So it became a sort of our own Thanksgiving. And the last tradition is that always on St. Martin's Day in Venice, it's a summer day. For some sort of reason, because St. Martin's gave the cloak to the poor and the poor got warm, we think, or we believe, that the 11th of November is actually a summer day. It's the summer of St. Martin's, and the day tend to be nice and bright and kind of warmish, considering that November is a cold month. And yeah, that's basically what's happening around the place. So I am going to leave you with a couple of images from my St. Martin's cake that I try to bake here in Ireland. And I do that every year because I think it's a very, very nice, very simple Venetian own tradition that we need to keep up, or that I feel the border to keep up, and the pleasure as well. So I'm going to share my St. Martin's Day, St. Martin's cake with some friends on the weekend for dinner, and I'm going to tell them of the CUs that we have in Italy, and hopefully they will remember, and eventually they will try to make their own. So if you as well, now that you are empowered with the knowledge of this tradition, want to make the cake, I will make sure to leave the links below in the description, where you can find the recipe, or at least the template, because it's basically a biscuit base with the royal icing and just turbot candies on the top. But it's important that you share it with your loved ones. And yeah, that was it. I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.